Oh, I've got a candle lighting, I've got a coffee in my hand, we're ready to go. Hello there, my name is Jonathan and this is Jonathan's Days, and this is my YouTube channel and series where I chat about all things knitting, yarn, fibre, stuff in the fibre world. If you are brand new here, welcome. It's been a minute since I kind of introed myself in any way, but I live in London, I knit a lot, I've just taken up sewing, and I like to chat about it and share about it here on YouTube. So yeah, and if you're like an old returning viewer, I'm so glad to be back and to be talking about knitting again. I know it's been a while since I posted a knitting podcast, and those of you who watched my previous video, which was a sew day, I hope you enjoyed it. If you are a sewer, lots of people commented who are sewers who really enjoyed it, which is so nice. Thank you so much. And those of you who aren't sewers, who may be interested or vaguely interested, I hope you found it somewhat interesting. I mean, before I took up sewing, I was watching tons of sewing videos on YouTube. I find them really interesting, and now I find them even more interesting. But we're here to talk about knitting, and I have a lot of knitting to talk about. It's been quite a while since I chatted about knitting, so we've quite a lot of finished objects and some exciting whips, exciting things to talk about, and it's, you know, the chill has come in the air here in London where I'm living, and I'm just knitting up a storm and I can't stop, and I'm just very excited for it to be cold so I can wear hand knits and finish things and make things, so I'm really excited. So let's jump right in to finished objects. The first one I'm wearing. So the story of this one is long, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. So this is the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I believe it was the first in her Shift series. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, it was one of the earlier ones. And so this is knit out of Spincycle Nocturne, which is their dyed in the wool base. But this one is kind of a grey base instead of a white base, so all the colours are a little bit moodier, a little bit darker, hence the term Nocturne. And I believe this is non-superwash, whereas dyed in the wool is superwash yarn. And so this cowl, I made it with 3 colours, which is Moonshine, Thin Ice, and Nightwatch. So the reason I ended up kind of getting the yarn for this in the end was because I was making the Great Gingham Raglan. If you're an old viewer, you would have seen me make that. And so in that, I used the Moonshine colorway for that colorwork sweater. And it was, like, I don't know what point I was at, but realized I just didn't have enough of the Moonshine colorway. And I don't think a lot of places, if any, stock the Nocturne base other than Spincycle's own website. If there are others, I don't think it's very common for local yarn stores to stock it. So I had to order direct from Spincycle. And so it's one of those things, when I'm ordering from America, I might have to pay customs, I have to pay more for shipping. I said, oh, I might as well throw in a couple of more skeins of something vaguely interesting. So I was like, well, everyone has made the Shift, everyone loves the Shift. It's like one of these super popular designs. So I was like, well, I'm already getting the skein of Moonshine. If I end up not using it or not needing it, I'll have it left over. And I'll throw in 2 more skeins, which was the other 2 colors, and then I can make a Shift. So it was kind of a contingency plan for leftover yarn. The good thing is that I had a little chunk of Moonshine left over, so plus the full skeins. So in the end, I had 3 full skeins plus a good chunk. So I got to use up the scrap from the Great Gingham to make this, as well as most of a full skein. So it's kind of like, I still have some left over of the Moonshine color, but regardless, it's done. And the reason I made this as well was because I wanted to be one of my projects that I brought to Mexico. The theme of this episode would probably be projects I brought to Mexico. So I kind of like, you know, I watch Knitting Traditions, Inga and Bear Rebecca. They're both very fast knitters, I find, or at least they seem very fast to me. And Inga especially, she went on a trip a few months ago and she brought so many projects, and I just had this idea in my head. I was like, oh, I'm as fast as her. I'm like, I can knock them out. So I ended up bringing 4 projects with me to Mexico, 2 of which I didn't touch at all, and 2 of which I did work on quite a bit. So I had delusions of grandeur, but you know, whatever. Shoot for the stars. I think as knitters, we kind of worry, like, not having knitting is not an option for us. So I brought the shift cowl and I cast it on in Mexico, actually. And one of the reasons I brought it is because, thank you so much, viewers of the last podcast, before I went to Mexico, a lot of people flagged that Mexico is one of the few countries in the world where they will take your knitting needles off you on the plane. And so I knew I would be okay flying to Mexico, but we were flying around within the country and obviously flying home to London. So I was worried that they would take my needles off me. So I ended up getting wooden, I did my old tricks, which is put the needles in my bag, like in a pencil case with pens, so they look like pens, my metal needles. And but regardless, for our short trip within the country, I brought wooden needles and I brought this project, which went through fine. They weren't even looked at. However, on the way home, because my trip within the country went fine, I did bring my metal needles for a project I'll show you in a second, and they're the short Addy lace tip needles, so they're quite pointy. And so we went through security, sidebar guys, went through security on the way home to London. Bear in mind, I'm about to get on a 10-hour flight. Like, I can't not have knitting on a 10-hour flight, 11-hour flight. And so they stopped my bag. I don't speak Spanish. My partner is from Mexico, so he was translating. And she was rooting through my bag, pulling out everything, trying to find something, which I'm assuming was my metal knitting needle. And so I was literally like holding my breath. I felt like, guys, a legal smuggler or something. And I was like, it's just knitting, don't take it away. So in the end, they didn't find it necessarily. Like, they were looking around, they looked at like I had a fountain pen, which has quite a lot of ink in it, like it kind of sloshes around, so it could look like a liquid. But they put it through the metal detector a second time and checked things again and again, and they didn't find anything wrong with it. They didn't actually find the metal tip. So I got away with it and I managed to bring it on the flight, which was great. But yes, beware, please beware, my wonderful friends of this YouTube channel. If you are flying to Mexico, your metal needles will definitely, like, I would, you know, if you're nervous, don't risk it. Just bring some like wooden ones, or maybe bring like, because obviously I was using quite a small, like this was 3.75 millimeters or 3.5 millimeters. Regardless, it was a pretty thin needle. So I think if you're using like blunter, larger, so like maybe 5 millimeter tips, maybe they wouldn't like flag as much because they don't seem like such of a sharp point, if that makes sense. But yeah, so just beware. And the other country that someone else flagged was France. So they're the two countries. Everywhere else in the world, I've never, ever had a problem. But yeah, Mexico and France are the two. And it's quite frustrating because my partner is from Mexico. We're going to be going there a lot. So, you know, excuse me. We're going to be going there a lot. So it's frustrating. So I have to think about it in the future, just invest in more wooden tips. But anyway, wooden tips for this. I'm going to take it off so I can show you. So you cast on, it seamed up the back. Here you can see. Oh, what gorgeous seaming you did, Jonathan. So you cast on like up here, and then it's so hard to describe. It's almost like you knit diagonally and then you seam it up the back, so it ends up being like that shape. If I was amazing with editing, I would edit this shape in there. Maybe I will, who knows. And then you seam the two ends in, so it makes this kind of pointy shaped cowl, which, to be honest, is such a cool shape and so wearable. I know that I'm going to be wearing the crap out of this thing all winter long, no, autumn long. I think I just love cowls. I love putting them on as much as I like a shawl or a scarf. You know, flipping on a cowl is so great. The yarn I've used before, which is wonderful. It's a bit expensive, obviously. Chances are, like, so I really like the color. So there's this one color, which is this one you can see here, which was the Nightwatch colorway, which is quite like a turquoise, like deep turquoisey color, which didn't like color shift very drastically. So I think it's one of the ones that you could probably get away with, like say you wanted to try Spincycle, just get maybe one skein and 2 other solid colorways. I still think it would look quite cool with the kind of shift pattern. And it's like slip stitch pattern is pretty easy to do. Got into the rhythm of it eventually, and seaming was fine. I don't really mind seaming too much. Anything else I want to mention about it? Yeah, and I used the wooden tipped needles for the entire project because I know that if you switch between needle material, it can affect your gauge slightly. So I chose just to stick with them the whole time. I will flag, and if anyone else uses these, let me know. I use the Addy Click systems. I'm one of the rare people who doesn't use Chowgoos. But the bamboo needle tips that I got had like a chunk out of the tip, which was very frustrating. I don't know if it's something that happened in transit or something. So much so that it was catching on the yarn as I was going. It's almost like a splinter. So I ended up using, where we were, I had like my nail clippers with me, which had a file. So I was like filing the tip of it, like sanding it down using the nail file to smooth out the tip, which worked out in the end, but it was like just a bit annoying. Which is why like my general preference is metal. But anyway, I feel like I've spoken about this enough. Yeah, 3 skeins, super wearable, super fun. Don't know how crazy toasty it will be, but I think it's like enough. I've liked wearing it around the house, wearing it out. Yeah, it's great. I get it. I get why like there's like 10,000 projects on Ravelry where everyone makes it. It's such a like fun piece to make and really easy to wear. Like what's not to like about it? And I love this shape of cowl. It's definitely something I can see myself making something like this or something similar as well. And I know there's the Inclinations cowl that Andrea Mowry made as well, which might be it's a similar construction but different stuff. But yeah, highly recommend, guys. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure loads of you have already made them already. And someone commented, I posted on Instagram, someone was like, oh, it's like a rite of passage to do the shift cowl. So I feel like, yeah, it is. But anyway, yes, that's my lovely shift. The shift, I think, by Andrea Mowry. And that's my first finished object. Oh, I've even woven in my ends quite nicely. Cool, so speeding right along. The next finished object, so this one I didn't bring with me to Mexico. I almost finished it, and then I left it at home and took a different sweater project with me to Mexico, because it was at the kind of stage that within a couple of days of me being in Mexico I would have finished it, and I didn't want to bring an entire sweater project with me to Mexico that I would finish in a few days and then have to like lug it around and stuff like that, because we did travel around quite a bit. But yeah, so this is my next finished object. It's very exciting because it is my first design. Da, 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 da. Here we go, I'll pull back so you can see. So I will pop it on, I'll hold it up a little bit so you can see. You would have seen the yoke, but here it is all blocked out. So this is what I would call my first draft of my first design. If you watched the previous episode, you would kind of hear the story of how I came up with it, how I wanted it to just kind of be a I'll stand up a bit. Maybe if I sit back a little bit, maybe you can see it better. Yeah. So, yes, so this is finished. It has a name. I've landed pretty much on the name that my first inclination. Thank you to everyone who suggested a name for it, but my kind of gut feeling that I had for it going into the actual design process is what I'm probably going to go with. I just need to double check that nobody else has already used that name or anything like that. So it does have a name, which I will tell you at a later date when things are a bit further along. But anyway, so it is knit out of La Bien Aimée, Corrie worsted in the color French grey and Flouromorganite. The French grey is obviously the grey, Flouromorganite is the pink. I'll stand up so you can see. So I have done, so it's like a slip stitch stripe pattern across the yoke with then the contrast color on the cuffs and the hem along the bottom as well. It's super simple to knit. I think it's definitely, could potentially be your first sweater or your second sweater. I think it would also be great if you want to learn how to read from a chart for the first time very easily, or if you're kind of just about ready to take on like a color work yoke, this kind of using the chart, it kind of gives you an introduction to the rhythm and pace of a color work yoke. And so without kind of carrying two strands, essentially, without doing stranded color work, it kind of sets you up for that. So then if your next project was a color work yoked pattern, I think you'd be in a good position after doing this design. I have slid into the DMs of a tech editor who says they're willing to tech edit it. And so this won't be the final sample. There are some very minor tweaks I want to make. There's a little something on just the first row of stripes that I want to like shift everything just a little bit, and then there's a change in the neckline, just very slight. There's all these like tiny details that I want to change for the final design. I'm still going to wear the hell out of this, and I absolutely love this. Is exactly what I wanted it to be. And so the plan is, as of, what date is it today? 2nd of October, so we're just into October. I'm taking a week off of work at the end of this month, and it's going to be kind of like my knitting week off of work. So I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything, I'm just going to treat knitting like my job and sort out all the things I need to sort out for this design, which includes grading it, kind of getting started on all of that, getting it ready for a tech editor, organizing the test knit, which I'm not going to call a test knit, I'm going to call it a preview knit, because I don't want people to be testing this design. I want it to be, you know, I will be getting a tech editor to do that, so that the design should work by the time you're preview knitting it. It's only something small like a typo that I would mess up that should be discovered in the preview knit. I don't want you to be testing it, if that makes sense. The pattern should be ready for you to work on by the time you're preview knitting it. That's the way I'm looking at it, rather than getting people to knit for essentially free for something. You know what I mean? Like to test it. I don't want you to test it. I just want you to like preview it to make sure that it's easy to read, that the PDF is nice, that you understand my language. I know I talk fast. Maybe I write fast. Who knows? Anyway, regardless, that will probably roll around hopefully mid-November-ish. I'm really taking it slow. This is kind of obviously new territory for me. I've never personally test knit. My plan is to knit along with the test knit myself. Test knit, preview knit, I'm going to be saying them both. I'm going to be knitting along with it myself to make the final sample, which will have those tweaks I just spoke about. But that will hopefully be around December. So maybe I would like it a pretty, you know, I want to do a good 11 sizes. And if someone's making those higher range sizes, I mean, I'm a pretty fast knitter. I can bash out like what would be a stereotypical medium, a men's medium in 3 to 4 weeks, but the yardage alone and the larger sizes, obviously I want to give everyone plenty of time to get through it, so I probably would want it to be about a 12-week test knit. So if we could get it in November, then it would be a release for New Year's. So we'll see. This could all change. I could scrap it all. Who knows? But thank you so much to everyone's kind comments and support in the previous video, which it was really wonderful. People already shouting that they want to test knit it, which is just wonderful. It means a lot to me. I did not set out to make this a design, and if you watched the previous episode, you would know that. It just kind of became that. It's the first kind of drafted pattern I did, and so we'll see. If you like it, if you want it, I think it's a really nice, simple, staple piece, very wearable piece that you could have. I recently went on an adventure with some crafty sewy knitty friends, and everyone really liked it, and everyone really wanted to make it as well. So it's been quite nice. So thank you so much to everyone for your kind words and your support. It means a lot. It does mean an awful lot. So yeah, so it's done. So grading will happen quite soon. Everything will move along, and hopefully in the new year we'll have the first design coming. It is one of those things of once you, I think they all say it, once you start it, you kind of start thinking about other designs and other things you want. And I do, but for now, I would just like to dip my toe in, see how this is, see how it works. And if people want it and enjoy it, then that's amazing. So yes, that's where we're at. That's my second finished object, and I love it. I haven't been wearing it a lot because I do want to kind of take final measurements and make those tweaks, so I don't want to kind of like distort the fabric with my like flailing around. So I haven't been wearing it a huge amount, but I'm super thrilled with it, and I'm excited to share it with you guys in the not too distant future. So yeah, that was my second finished object. And yes, we have one more finished object which will lead nicely into our whips. Okay, my next finished object is a long time coming and kind of boring for most people, but I feel like some of you want to know. I finally finished my sock tube, yes! So, again, this is also known as the chorizo tube, if you watched the previous video. And then someone on Instagram said yesterday, when I posted a picture of just the toes on these socks, that I was like, oh, I thought they were band-aids. So this color has definitely divided the nation. But yes, so this is a vanilla sock that I knit from, this is Olann Mara, no it's not Mara, I'm lying. It's Olann yarns, and it's the Síoda sock base in the color Nectar. And I've had this yarn for quite a while. It was originally a different sock pattern, and then I scrapped that and restarted in a new design, and I ended up just making a literal super long tube with a little short circular, 2.5mm circular. And once I finished the tube, I left 20 grams, I guess, 25, 30 grams of yarn to do the toes and heels. It's taken me months to actually get around to doing the toes and the heels, and you know what got me around to doing it was a bit of a chill in the air. And as soon as that chill came in the air, my toes were like, oh my god, we're freezing. So I made finally just finished off. It took like 2 evenings to just bash through it. It was also the first time I'd done an afterthought toe. I've done an afterthought heel before, but I used the Crazy Sock Ladies tutorials for afterthought toes and heels, which are wonderful. They're like a free video on YouTube, and I'm pretty happy doing afterthought toes and heels. I love the Kitchener. Does anyone else love doing Kitchener stitch? I absolutely love it. I love the rhythm. It's because like obviously I did 2 toes and 2 heels in a very short succession, so it was like felt like a lot of Kitchener. But yeah, so these are knit on 2.5mm needles. 64 stitches, and the length, so what I did is, because this is a non-superwash sock base, this is a tip from Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fibers, is that with non-superwash yarns, I think we're both Irish, so I think we have similar kind of the way we treat our socks tends to felt. So when they felt on the foot shrinks, like shortens almost. So I gave myself a little bit of leeway in the length of the foot where I put in the heel, because I kind of measured it off one of my like used socks, which you can tell I kind of felt it a bit. I'm a big non-superwash kind of guy, in case you haven't noticed. So I made the foot a bit longer, which was great. And yeah, I love how long they are. I used up like nearly all of the yarn. I just have a tiny little nugget left, which is really what my intention was with knitting tubes. Was like, I want to I have so much sock yarn. We all have so much sock yarn. Sock knitters, we can't stop. It's the worst. So I wanted to use as much of it. I want to get it knit up, get it on my body, get it out the door, you know? So that's what I've done. What I felt I've achieved with this. So it's like a really long leg, but I don't mind. I wear boots in the winter. I like a long leg. It's the cast on, I think it was long tail, and the cast off, I did a tubular, which feels a bit tight on my calf because I've got very strong calves. So we'll see once they block out. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more relaxed and stretchy. But what else to say? This is a super soft sock yarn. I'm very excited to. I know in my heart of hearts it's going to felt, but I know it's going to feel really soft and amazing. So that is exciting. I finished the heel this morning just for you guys because I wanted them to be done for the podcast. I'm such a good boy. But I woven all my ends on everything except the last heel. So I'll do that, and then I'll block them properly on these sock blockers. I think I might leave them like this so that the cuff stays as elastic as possible rather than stretching out. So it's actually worked out quite well. And it leads me into my first work in progress, which is literally another sock tube. So I can show you this is also the same base from Olann. This is in the color Muir, M-U-I-R. So it's another sock tube. This is probably just over halfway. So this is it. This is what I do. I just knit a long tube, and then I weigh the little scrap. But once the little scrap gets around to 20 grams, well, probably less because I do the cuff. I knit the cuff and then put in the heels and toes, and it's like a really like satisfying way to knit a sock, because you know, especially if you have 2 sets of needles like in the tutorial from Crazy Sock Lady, you kind of get both the needles and cut into your yarn and split the tube, suddenly like you're already there. It feels like a very satisfying end to it. So I think if you're like a second sock syndrome kind of person, rather than knitting them 2 at a time, it's a good maybe an option for you to try it this way. I love sock knitting. Well, I think I love sock knitting in the winter, but having the sock tube being like that super portable project, like this project I can pull out anywhere, and just get a few stitches, get a few rounds in, and it's super handy, super small, super beautiful yarn. I love this color. I'm gonna get my face out of it. Yeah, this is beautiful. This is like a khaki kind of color. I really like it. These are both very like autumnal, a little bit of Irish flag moment. Nice autumnal colors. So you can tell like I'm just I love the summer. Don't get me wrong. I love the summer. But my body, my DNA is wired for autumn times. It's in my Hide and Hammer bag. They're the only knitting bags I have, apart from one that I sewed myself when I first learned to sew. This is the 08. I don't think I've spoken about them for a little while. I also have, I need to get more of these. This is a cuff that I got. This is also from Hide and Hammer. I got this Unravel. It's a shawl cuff, but like it's a cute bracelet, but I also use it when that tube gets too long, and I fold up the tube and I put this on it so it kind of holds the, because you'd have this really long tube and you're trying to knit with it really long. Having these cuffs to like wrap them is super nice. So I'm actually gonna stick that on here. I need to get more. I want a black and I want a tan, because black and tan. Oh, another Irish thing. Because of some shawl plans I have, and I want them. I love wearing shawls with these. It keeps them on for me. So that's that. Hide and Hammer. What's next, guys? More whips. Whips. Let's do. Let's do this one. Okay. Another Hide and Hammer. It's like, this is the 03. That other one was the 08. This is like the baby version of this. I love both. I love all my children equally. Cool. So I actually haven't looked at this since I got back from Mexico, if I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Okay. It's great content, isn't it? Watching me turn my sweater the right way around. Which is ironic, because this is the wrong side sweater by Maxim here. Good old Max, guys. It's that. Where are my short rows? Here they are. Okay, cool. Let's turn around. Ta-da! This is that the right way? Where are my short rows? Here. I think this is the right way. Doesn't matter. You get the gist. Let me sit back a bit. Here you go. This is my wrong side. I have got one sleeve and good decent portion of the body. So I was working on the body of this sweater on the plane back from Mexico. I didn't want to start a sleeve because I feel like a sleeve was kind of a bit of a faff to do on the plain with decreases. I like just kind of like stockinette on something like that. So here's the neckline. And so, in case you can't tell, this is Corrie Confetti. This is the second time I've used Corrie Confetti. The first time was on my Billy pullover, and that was in the grey bow colorway, so it's grey color with the recycled flex. This is the Nightfall colorway, and Max has actually made the original wrong side was knit in the grey bow colorway, and Max has actually done another one for himself in this color. His doesn't have the contrast stripes on the neckline, but mine does. So they look different. We're different. I'm not just copying you. This is one of those things now that I've pulled this out, I'm like, oh god, I need to finish it. But I love this. It's so different from everything that I have made before. This is obviously, it's called the wrong side because you when you knit it the normal way, and then you turn it inside out to actually wear it. So it's like totally different. I've mentioned before that I don't really like how the confetti yarn looks in stockinette. I like how it looks in some sort of like texture, like cables or garter or something like that. So originally I did have the idea of knitting the Dustland by Stephen West in this Nightfall, but then when the wrong side came out, I just kind of became obsessed with that. So yeah, here it is. These colors here, this is definitely Seaglass. This gray, I have no clue. I'll look it up. It'll be on the screen, or will have already been on the screen. Thanks editing, Jonathan. Yeah, I'm knitting the third size. I tend to always knit the third size in Max's sweaters. I didn't gauge swatch because I've knit sweaters in this needle size, in this yarn, in Max's patterns. It's one of those kind of things. You should gauge swatch, yes, gauge swatch, but I kind of think like once you realize how your gauge matches up with the designer, unless for me you're using a different yarn, and this is my third time using the Corrie base, I generally know how my gauge is going to go. And yeah, I'm just in love with it. It's great. It's so good. It's real like sweatshirt, like those stripes make it like sweatshirt style, which I really love. Anything I can say about it? Corrie Confetti is a pleasure to knit with. If you kind of enjoy Spincycle color changes, anything like that, Corrie Confetti is really exciting because you get these blips of giant clumps of recycled Aimée colors, and I think on the Nightfall colorway, they especially, is it Nightfall? Yeah, Nightfall. They especially like chose more neon, so you get the neon pinks, the neon greens. It's just fun. It's just fun to knit with. It's great. It's got this longer cuff detail, which I haven't done in a minute, which I love. It doesn't have this detail on the hem. And do you think I should do it on the hem, you guys? What do you think? I think I might, because I quite like it. Also, the pattern, usually it has the gray, then the other color, but I did them that way. It's not a big deal. But yeah. Yeah, so you knit it the right way and then you turn it inside out to wear it. Is there anything I want to say about this? You were supposed to graft under the arms, but I didn't. And I know why Max did that in the pattern, because it makes a nicer finish on the reverse stockinette side. But I don't, how many people are looking at my pits? Not that many. So, because I've said this before, Max always thinks about these details and amazing finishes on his patterns, and I chose to ignore that. I'm so sorry. So yeah, it's there, it's done, it's not done. It's here, it's probably going to be done by the next time you see it. I've got nothing left on this, and then a sleeve to bash out. But yeah, so I came back from Mexico and I immediately stopped working on this. Now, I came firstly because I wanted to finish this, and that was my priority, was to get that finished, because I wanted to try it on. I wanted to measure my like final gauge when the final blocked piece was done. There was certain just choices I made in size of sleeves, neckline and stuff. I wanted to kind of have those in my mind so that when it came to writing up the pattern and grading it, I was ready for that. So that was my priority. And then I was really fatigued with knitting sweaters. I will be honest, you know, I think a lot of podcasters are real sweater knitters, and I'm definitely got into that vibe. But even though we've kind of came to the cusp of sweater weather, I found myself being really fatigued with sweaters, as much as I enjoy knitting them and will continue to. So I wanted a break from that. And so similar to my sock tube, which I finally got done, it was one of those things sitting in the back of my head. I picked up a project I haven't picked up for a while and have been bashing it out. And another reason I have been bashing out this project is because I got some yarn and it's all connected, but yeah. So I won't spend too much time on it because long-time viewers have seen it a couple of times, but I've been working on my woven chevrons shawl. Ooh, getting pretty big, huh? These are all my ends, which are already pre-woven in Weave and Steven. So yeah, this is my woven chevrons by Stephen West. This is knit out of Studio Donegal Darnie, I think it is. The colors don't have names, they just have numbers, so they will be up on the screen if they have not already been. And yeah, I have been plugging away at this. I am on the 6th repeat of 9, so this is one of the things with shawls that like start small and get bigger. You know, it's meant to be 9 repeats. I'm like, I'm on the 6th repeat, I'm 2/3 of the way done, but it's like, you're not 2/3 of the way done because you're adding a lot more stitches. So I'm probably a bit over halfway done, but I have been really enjoying it. It's been, I'm really focused on clearing off my needles, and I don't have a lot of whips. I really, really don't. It's this, the sock, I have the wrong side, and then I have my, if you remember, I have a DRK everyday sock, which I've done the first sock of and I haven't done the second. So right now my focus is finishing this shawl because there's another shawl that I want to cast on, which I'll talk about in a second. Not the MCAL. But yeah, I wanted to get this done because as well, I haven't made a shawl this year. You know, I've cast this on, I don't know if I actually cast this on this year or if I cast it on last year, but regardless, I haven't made any shawls this year, and I'm not a huge shawl wearer, but at home I do like to have a shawl over my shoulders in the winter. At home it just like keeps me a little bit warm. I love these colors. I love these colors. I love using Studio Donegal yarns because it's an Irish yarn company. I feel this is so graphic and so cool and so different. Like you can't buy this. You won't be able to buy this in a shop anywhere. This is definitely something that has to be hand knit, in my opinion. So yeah, that's why it feels like special to me. So I'm really focused on getting this done, getting this yarn out of my stash. Yeah, I'm just really, really happy with it, excited with it. And yeah, it's a pattern. Once you get the rhythm of it, you don't need to use the pattern anymore. I think yeah, I'm very close to, you know, it's nice that it's in a getting into that wearable size, so you can kind of envision what it's going to look like. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. So that's it. That is my final whip. Is that my final whip? Am I lying to you? Yes, that is my final whip that I'm working on at the moment. So hopefully I'll get that done. Maybe not by the next episode, but I do want to get it done before the end of the year because there's another shawl I want to cast on before year's end. And that shawl, I will tell you now because it's part of my first acquisitions that I've gotten recently. Okay, so my battery is winking, so we're going to move right along quite quickly through my acquisitions. There is not a lot, quite a small few actually. The main one that I want to share with you guys is, I mentioned many times, one of my favorite podcasters, YouTubers ever is Mel from Cozy Cardigans, aka Big Little Yarn Co. and she had a shop update, the spooky summer shop update, a couple of weeks ago. It happened while I was in Mexico in the deep country with very little internet, and I had to go to a strange place in the house we were staying to catch the Wi-Fi to place an order. But I did, and I'm so happy and so excited about what I got. I picked up 5 skeins, 2 of one color and 3 of another color, and they are all the Peruvian wool fingering, so it's 100% Peruvian wool, 2-ply fingering weight, and dyed in Hyogo, Japan, Big Little Yarn Co. So this is the label. Cute. This is the first color. This is Tsuki. So I got 3 tonal colors and 1 kind of speckled color, or variegated color. So I got 2 skeins of Tsuki. Then next one is Aimée, which is this color. It's a little bit darker in person. And then Kage. And so they're my 3 tonals. Very my vibe. And then this is Spooky Summer because Mel Dye has colors based around like Halloween movies or again, spookiness, and so this is our Spooky Summer update. So this is the Hereditary color in the Peruvian wool. And guys, do you see what I see? It almost fades into the background of this painting. So this is by my partner's mother. She's a painter, and this is, oh my god, it's like it's crazy. That's so wild. It literally, like, it vanishes. Oh my god, that's cool. Mel, that's pretty cool, right? Mel, were you inspired by this painting? I don't think she was, but it's cool. Definitely have a vibe. So these are the 4 colors together. My plan is to make the satellite shawl by Andrea Mowry. My favorite shawl that I've ever made is the Moonshine shawl. I wear it every day in winter. Like, once it's cold, every day that is on my shoulders at home. When I walk in the door, it's on my shoulders. I wear it out. It's my favorite shawl. I absolutely love it. This, I feel, is like the spiritual successor or the spiritual sister to Moonshine. So it's like, obviously it's a thinner weight, but I've gone for a similar color story. So it's grays, blues, and then oranges. So the plan is to make these the striped sections and then make this with the brioche section. So you'd have these 2 together in brioche, and then these are all the stripes going through in the stripe sections. This pattern was recommended to me by Caleb from Darnie and Yarn, and also Julia, who works at Labby Aimée. She recently finished one, and it's amazing. So I think it's like a not as like well-known shawl pattern by her, but I think it's one that I'd really enjoy and get a lot of wear at. So I'm very excited about that. I want to cast it on. If there was ever a yarn to use to cast on something quickly, it would be Mel, because she loves the cast on. But I am going to finish the Stephen West shawl first, and then my reward for finishing that will be casting on this one and using Mel's yarn, which I'm so excited about. It feels really great to support someone that you like admire so much and you can tell like works really, really hard in their craft. So yeah, I'm like really like almost, I don't know, touched by it. I don't know, it's quite nice to have that like connection, even because we chat online. But yeah, so yes, that's Big Little Yarn Co. That's Mel's wonderful yarn, and it's going to be a satellite shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I'm excited about it. Can't wait. So that's why I want to like bash through my other shawl and like get my needles cleared and just get excited for the kind of fall knitting. And then final acquisition is actually what was my final project that I brought to Mexico, which I didn't touch. So I literally lugged around what feels like 500 grams, maybe more, of yarn, and never ended up knitting it, but I will show you super briefly because I show you everything. So this is Knitting for Olive, and I got the Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Oatmeal. And then they're soft silk mohair in the color Oat. And the plan is to make another slipover, the petite knit slipover. I have one that I've made before, which I wear all the time. I feel like the theme of this episode is all the time. I'm really pushing into knits that I know that I'll wear and enjoy, and very much, you know, I don't think I'm necessarily a product knitter, but I do like utility. I do like to have knits that I can really use and have a life and make the most out of. So I'm definitely focused on those. So I got what is a slipover quantity for me, which I think is three skeins of each. And they're 50 grams each. And they're great. Even smell great. So yes, I will make another slipover with that because I wear the slipover all the time, and it's really great for like autumn, winter layering, even the summer with the t-shirt. Absolutely love it. And they're my only acquisitions. Are they my only acquisitions? Yes. Yeah, they're my only yarn acquisitions. Last thing I just wanted to shout out super quickly is the latest issue of Lina magazine. As you know, I love Lina magazine. I've knit a bunch of stuff from it, and I have a bunch of plans. The thing that really jumped out at me in this issue, which I really do want to make, is by Wei Chen Chan, which is also known as the Petite Knitter. Not Petite Knit, the Petite Knitter. And let me find it. Here we go. The pattern is the Himalayas. This is also the autumn. Oh, the photos aren't right here. Or they're not very good. This is the autumn 2022. This is issue 15, and they've also redesigned Lina magazine, and the design is wonderful. This is their I ordered this online directly from them. This is like the limited edition black and white cover. I'm a sucker for like a limited edition blah blah blah. Anyway, this is the pattern, and it is a yoked top down yoked colorwork sweater. And it's interesting because I want to ask you guys, super important question is, I've done 2 stranded colorwork. Max has the Be Positive sweater, which is coming up on my to-do list. And this one is, so Be Positive has 3 colors, 3 color rows. And this has 4 color rows. And I want to ask anyone who is a 2-handed colorwork knitter, so you throw with one and pick with the other, English and continental, how do you do 3 color colorwork or 4 color colorwork? Should I try getting that ring and have 2 colors on my continental finger on my left and then 1 color on my throw? Should I do 2 and 2? What do you do? What works for you? Do you have recommendations? Do you have blog posts? Do you have videos? I've done a little light research online, and when I look up like 2-handed colorwork, 3 colors, 4 colors, I just get 2-handed, which I can do confidently. I'm happy with 2-handed. I think it's nice that I have the Be Positive, which will be a couple of rounds of 3 colorwork. I might try the ring and have 2 strands on my left hand and see how that goes. I'm not quite sure yet. So any of your thoughts, ideas, tips on that, I really, really want to know, because the Be Positive I'm very excited about. I've had a sweater quantity that for a long time, and then the Himalayan I'm excited about as well. I want to try it. So any of your tips I would really appreciate. And that's it, guys. That's all the knitting, all the yarn, all the bits that I've gotten. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit me up in the comments below. Tell me how you're doing. Do you feel the chill? Do you feel empowered by the chill to knit all the things like I am? I want to know. And yeah, tell me what you're working on while you're watching this, if you're working on anything. And yeah, if you do color work, 3 strands, 4 strands, 5 strands color work, tell me what method do you use. Are you 2-handed? Do you keep 4 strands over 1 finger? Any of your tips I'd really appreciate. And the plan is moving forward to do a video every 2 weeks. One which will be sewing, probably sewing, one which will be a knitting podcast. So it just means that I have more time to knit and do things. I'm really enjoying sewing, and you know, making content that I enjoy is important to me, and I really want to enjoy it as much as I enjoy the knitting podcast. It's fun to make the sewing podcast or sewing videos, not necessarily podcasts, and fun to sew. I'm enjoying it as well. So I hope that's okay. The knitting content is not going anywhere. Knitting is my bread and butter, and I think sewing is just the jam at the moment. So every 2 weeks you should get something from me, and then it means I will speak to you at end of October, early November, with everything coming up. It's an exciting time, and as I said, I'm taking that time away from my day job to focus on the a few design things and knitting things. So towards the end of the year now, it should mean that this channel and me and all the things I do become a bit more solidified and a bit more professional, I guess. And yeah, having it be a bit longer between knitting podcasts as well. Knitting podcasts for me take up a lot of time. It is a whole day of my life. It means shooting the entire, you know, however long it is. It means watching through it all over again to edit it, and also handwriting and hand drawing all the titles and putting in all those stupid comments that I love putting in and I hope make you laugh. So it does take up a lot of my time, but I enjoy making it, and I liked keeping you company as well. So this little bit more time between them gives me more time to work on things like the design and do other things as well, which will keep it fresh and exciting, hopefully for all of us. So thank you so much for joining me on the journey so far. And yeah, happy knitting. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy. And yeah, light a candle. Let's feel that winter vibe. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, what are the summer knits? Are we getting lacy? Let me know. I want to know. Have a great day, night, morning, weekend, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is for you. Whatever day it is for you. It's always Jonathan Day. Sorry. See you next time. Bye.